back to the shop. I've got a little project here that has been sitting on the bench for a while, and I thought I'd go ahead and there's a couple of things I want to demonstrate for you in this little project. It's not something that you haven't already seen, but that is I want to mount this axe head onto this little handle. Now, this handle is a little bit short for this size head. But again, like my other project from before, sometimes you need a little short handle on a larger head, and they do come in handy once in a while, especially if you're going to pack it around somewhere. So anyways, I thought I'd bring you along and show you what I'm doing here. So for newer viewers, I really don't like this edge on the bottom side of my axe eye to be sharp. I like to taper it all the way around. One of the things I don't care for is when it rides up on the axe head, the handle, and it cuts. If this is sharp, it will start to cut those fibers and create a hard transition right here where the axe head matches up with the handle. And so I like to put a bevel there so that those ride up on to the fibers and compress the fibers in the axe handle rather than to cause them to cut. One thing I want, and the one thing I have not done before, is I usually don't drill a hole right here. Some people do, but I like for there to be compression inside the eye all the way up past this point. So I do my best when I fit these handles for this to be good and tight before we do anything before we put this in. The other thing I like to do is make sure that my wedge is perfectly measured to fit the eye, and I also like to take and measure this like this as well, because I don't like to drive the wedge any further than what it will handle, because then you start to try to split the handle. Now this is a softer wedge. I prefer softer wedges, so I'm not too worried about that, but I just prefer for this to come down to right about there and stop. So I will, this one here, I don't think I need to mark. I can kind of see I've got about 1/4 of an inch, maybe, yeah, about 1/4 of an inch there. So we'll be able to drive this and keep it from going too deep. My other concern is that when I go to hang this head on this handle, I like to dip the whole area here that's going to be up inside the head into linseed oil. I don't like using epoxy, and I don't like using wood glue on these things, but the linseed oil acts as a lubricant to put it on and helps it seat nice and well. But not only that, it will dry and congeal a little bit and act as a light adhesive. But when you go to remove the eye, remove an old handle from the axe, it won't bond like some other glues will, but it will keep it good and tight. So it's already going to be tight, but I also like to dip those into linseed oil. Now that creates another problem. When you go to press this in there and you go to drive it, now see, it's already tight, it's already binding up. So when I go to drive this in, this is going to be tight all the way up into here. That's why I don't worry about the kerf splitting out. But when it gets up there, I will get this tight, and then I'll look at it and it'll be down just a little bit, and I'll pound it again and it'll still be down. And so I know I'm driving it in, but it still keeps leaving that little area right there showing, because that linseed oil allows it to slip back off. But there is a technique in order to fix that. So let's go ahead and drive this the rest of the way in there. Now, as you can see, this is not the original head that was on this short handle was even larger than this one, and this is a 3.5 pounder. So you can see where the old one was, clear down here, and where how it was angled differently here. But I have pounded this on several times, and I don't know if you can see, there's this gap right back there that keeps occurring. And so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put the wedge in here after I soak it up, put some linseed oil and put the wedge in there, and then we're going to drive this wedge like this. And when we drive it like this, we're driving the handle into the head and the wedge up in there. And as that wedge goes in, this all will expand and it will hold that head up into place where it belongs, and that gap will not be there when we do it this way. All right, we've got our line on there to indicate when we're going to be set. Drive this right in there like that. Now let's drive this home. Now all this is a big hunk of iron. It's about 2 inches thick. And I just use that and we'll drive this. I don't know if you can see the little gap right there. Like I said, this handle will drive into the head and the wedge will drive right up into the handle. Boy, that feels solid. I think I'm gonna leave it right there. And we're at the line actually. Beautiful. Now, I want to show you there's no gap here in the front or in the back. Everything is tight. Up front, up top here, everything is just as tight as can be. Turned out wonderfully. And you can tell how this is not hung like the head was on this, whatever the first head was on this handle. But you can tell it's all tight, and this here is what you really want to see, is when you put the handle down, it should hit in the middle to the back third. Right in there is where it ought to hit, and it is perfectly aligned. And there we go, all fit up nice and tight. Got our axe here. It says M for Manage Tool Company, 3.5 pounds right there with the phantom bevels. This, like I said, I painted this up some time ago. Had it laying around here and found this handle and thought, what a great handle to put on this head. It's all nice and tight. It fit so well. You can see how the wedge and everything came out and how it fit up so nicely. So I like to put soft wedges into my axe heads. Some people like hardwood. I will do walnut sometimes just as a contrast, but I personally prefer the soft wedges. The reason I prefer soft wedges is because the inside of the kerf, that cut in the handle that goes into the eye, you can't get that perfectly flat unless you try to get a sander in there and all that kind of stuff. You could do that with a sanding belt, But usually that's pretty rough. There's the saw tooths in there. There's also in this one, since this was used before, there were some imperfections along inside that kerf. And so when you jam a soft piece of wood, and I've got poplar coming out my ears, I've got so much of it that I'm able to use that for wedges and make just as many wedges as I want. And so that poplar, that soft wood, when you shove that in there really nice and tight, it fills in all those gaps, fills in all those rough parts that are in the hardwood of the handle, and that the linseed oil will cause that to expand and to fill in all those gaps, and that thing is basically all one solid piece. At least it acts like one solid piece. And when that linseed oil congeals and dries up, and when I say dry up, it doesn't shrink, but when it's dry, it will act as a bonding agent and hold that all together. This axe head is hung very, very tight and very well. So we have a home over here on the wall for it, so let's put it up. So there we are, another fun project all set up and put away. We can display that with pride. Sure do appreciate you guys coming by the shop for a visit. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up. If you know somebody that might enjoy this content, please send them the link. And if you're not subscribed and you're watching this video and you enjoy more of this content, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. And that way, next time we put up a video, you'll be notified and be able to join me again here in the shop. So guys, as always, here's to you. Have a great day. God bless.